Prof,
Ya.
boleh saya tanya sikit, tajuk
Ya,
kita
ya.
hari ini sesuai juga ke kita kalau kita share link ni dengan students?
Ya, saya rasa apa ni boleh je.
Okey,
Ya.
okey, kami share dekat Telegram lah. Okey, terima kasih
Okey.
Prof.
Boleh nampak saya punya skrin tak?
Nampak?
Nampak dah ya? Keluar dah.
Nampak.
Okey, baik. Alright. So, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sejahtera, selamat pagi kepada semua sahabat-sahabat di Unit 10. Terima kasih Dr. Zulman. So, pagi ni saya bersiaran dari rumah ya.
Ya, Prof. Sentiasa
Bersiaran.
handsome.
Inilah my home office or come studio.
Ya, okay,
So pagi ni tajuk pada pagi ni is kind of continuation. In the last 4 webinars, we talk about how learning works. So for those who have attended this, probably you recall the 4-part webinars. We talk about how learning works. So we started off looking at learning itself because we need to understand about learning, the philosophy, the principles, the theory before and the next thing, naturally, we understood learning, and then we have to understand learners. So learning and learners. So today, basically, we are talking about learners or students, basically. I prefer to use the word learners because everyone is a learner, including us. We learn new things every day, right? But in the context of teaching and learning, in the context of what we are doing, we talk about our students. They are also learners in the context of in the classroom. So basically today the focus is more on how do we make our students to become good learners, smart learners? How do we empower them? So the term that I use here, empowering, meaning that we are giving the power, mengupayakan kalau dalam bahasa Malaysia kan, mengupayakan. Kita nak upayakan student. We want them to be able to have the ability and the capacity to learn. We want them to become a smart and efficient, effective learners. So empowering students to be self-directed learners to make it simple, making them independent learners, making them smart and efficient learners. So that's basically the gist or the essence of the topic today. So if we have understood about learning, but of course there's so much more we need to know and read about learning, yeah. But we have some basic understanding of what learning is about, how to make it happen, how to make it effective, and then the next thing that we need to understand is about the human aspect and the students themselves. How do we treat them as adult learners? How do we look at them as a human? So self-directed learning and self-directed learners, these are the terms that we can use interchangeably. Self-directed learning meaning that on the learning aspect, and self-directed learners on the learners aspect. So self-directed learning allows students to take control of their own education or of their own learning. They take the responsibility and the ownership and become lifelong learners. That's the ultimate aim of education. Not during the 4 years that when the students with us, this time that we spend with them, I think we should always try to make them not only studying for the grade, but to really love the learning itself. They love to learn. They love to acquire new knowledge. for their own personal and professional development. So we want to inculcate, we want to instill and inculcate that mindset of wanting to learn, so that when they go out to work after they graduated from the university, they become lifelong learners. Okay, so let's explore today in this session this morning the benefits, the challenges, and the strategies for implementing self-directed learning. Okay, if you notice down here, last edited this presentation about 1 hour ago. 2 days ago in our seminar, I don't know how many of you have attended the seminar. I demonstrated a few apps, AI tools or AI applications, and one of them is a presentation app called Gamma.app. And this presentation that you are looking at on the screen now was generated by Gamma.app only about 1 hour ago. Okay,
Wow.
I have a confession to make. I think Dr.
Oh.
Zulman knows the story, right?
Ya. Kita rahsia bro, kita rahsia.
Kita rahsia. Tapi
Rahsiakan dulu.
I need to tell this because I just want to make a point. I prepared this presentation only 1 hour ago. And this is possible because of the AI application that I'm using. So bayangkan kalau suddenly you realize that you have to give a webinar.
Ya Allah.
I totally forgot. Kan? Kemudian tak ada pula dia punya bahan. Although I've been talking about self-directed learners for a long time, tapi I don't have one presentation just on this one tau. So what I did, I generated I just put in the title, yeah. So just to share with our friends here, why you must learn all these tools, kan? So I just put the title, just put this title, kan? Then I generate the whole presentation. Okay, yeah. Cuma I do have PowerPoints from my other presentation, so I just ambil beberapa PowerPoint, then I tambah balik ke dalam sini lah. Itulah cerita dia. Okay.
Hebat.
Jadi pada mereka yang belum lagi explore AI application, including this one, I hope you can watch. Mungkin Dr. Zulman, mungkin kita juga boleh buat, kita cari ruang, kita buat untuk staff unit 10, kan? Tapi kalau boleh kita boleh buat macam one day kind of workshop. Siapa yang berminat nak belajar gunakan AI application, kalau boleh face to face lebih mudah. Online pun boleh juga. So that we can expose our staff to several important AI tool that they can use to facilitate them to prepare teaching material, especially. Okay, so that's the story behind this. Agak kelang kabut juga lah tadi, ya. Okay. Now, okay, I want to reiterate this point. Yeah? It is critical for us to understand about learning. That's why I spent 4 webinars in 4 parts to talk about how learning works. But that's not all. Please continue to explore, read books, articles, and so on from the website. Understand more about learning. And today is about now, how do we apply that knowledge, and understand more about the learners, which is on the receiving end. They are on the receiving end when we deliver our course, we deliver our lesson. So how, by understanding our student, we can be more effective teacher or more effective lecturer. And I believe everyone here would dream to have students in their classroom yang very independent, very attentive, very responsible, so that we can manage the class very well. You don't have many issues, right? But in reality, on the ground, we will get students who have a different characters, different behaviors, and so on, different motivation. That's normal. That's normal. So, but how do we actually help our students now? How do we empower them to become more independent? It's not that our students don't want to be independent, but remember, they came from education. I mean, the last in 12 years when they were in school. So they came from a system, and still the system is very much actually make them to be not so independent. Everything is guided by the teachers. Everything is confined to a certain way of doing things. So I think our school, not only our school, actually many schools around the world still not giving the opportunity, not giving enough opportunity for students to create their creativity and to become more independent learners. So when they come to the university, and we expect them to be independent learners, I think probably quite unfair also to the student. So we cannot blame the student because they were shaped, their mind was shaped to be like that in the school. So now we have only 4 years, 4 years at the university. But every lecturer probably would only see the student for 2 or 3 courses that they teach. So now imagine kalau semua pensyarah kita faham tentang empowering students to be self-directed learners, then we can do this together. We cannot do this alone. So meaning that now today we have like I don't know, 10, 15 people attending, lecturers attending this program this morning. So only a
34
small,
lah, bro.
berapa?
34.
Oh, 34 lah, 34. But we have 400, right? 400 lecturers here. So imagine how do we do this collectively as a university? 400 of us, 400 of lecturers understand about learning, understand about learners, understand about the concept of self-directed learners, and know how the strategies, how to make our students more independent, because they only have 4 years dekat universiti tau. Jadi kita kata, oh dulu 12 tahun dekat sekolah. They have all the opportunities in 12 years for teachers to develop them as independent learners and self-directed learners. Well, we don't have control what happened in the school, but we do have control what happened or what's going to happen to the student during the 4 years. If only everyone is moving together, understanding and do this together collectively, collective effort, concerted and collective and coordinated effort. So I hope we can move towards that, meaning that we can scale up this. We can get more people to to come and learn together, understand about learning, learners, and so on. So kecil sangat pula. Okay. I'm not going to elaborate on these learning theories because in some it just okay. I'm sure you have heard some of this term: behaviorism, cognitism, constructivism. So these are all the so-called learning theories. Some actually some of these principles I have covered in the 4 parts webinars that we have just completed. But these are the things that I think all of us, including me, because I still read a lot about all these different learning theories, learning principles, and so on, and then try to see how we can apply this. So let's continue to learn more about the underlying theories, principle, and so on. So now come to the what is actually self-directed learning, or SDL. And another term that is associated with this is self-regulated learning or self-regulated learners. It is closely related and closely associated. I have slides later on to show you what's the meaning of self-directed and self-regulated learners. Ultimately, we want our students to be self-directed and self-regulated as well. And this is where we can get a true, what we describe as true independent learners. And is to me, if we have all our students in the classroom are self-directed learners, that is the ideal situation. I don't think we can achieve that, but we should strive for that. So these are some of the elements of self-direct. Yeah.
Bro, selalunya in class, how many percent yang student lah selalu yang Prof tengok self-directed learner?
Oh,
Selalunya.
thank you.
Yang kita boleh achieve lah.
Yeah. No, we there's no, we can't put a figure. We can't put.
Ada kajian lah.
Yeah.
Belum ada kajian.
I don't know about the research, but even I doubt there's a research telling us there are certain percentage of self-directed learners or independent learners in any class. It's very much situational, though. It's very much situational. You can imagine like a boarding school, for example. Boarding school who probably, the students who admitted into the boarding school are top student academically in terms of their achievement in the SPM and so on. So we would assume all these top grade students would be very motivated and self-directed, meaning that this kind of student, self-directed learners or self-directed students, who usually are highly motivated and they can learn on their own. So regardless if the teacher is excellent or the teacher is bad, they can still learn and they can still perform. So this is what self-directed learners is about, because they are independent, they are motivated, they are proactive and so on. So kalau cikgu tu pun memang orang kata pun jenis yang not so, apa orang kata, orang kata bad teachers lah, they just do enough and not really care about the students' emotions, students' motivation and so on. So they just do enough to teach the course. That's all. They don't go beyond that. So if you have students who are self-directed learners, regardless if the teacher is excellent or the teacher is not so good, they can still learn and do well in the exam. But even in the boarding school or the school where we have a lot of excellent students academically, we still get students who are less, so-called less independent. So in a so-called normal average school, we will get a mix of some highly motivated, some are really independent learners, but some are not. So we cannot put a percentage. It depends on, it's very much situational. Yeah. Okay. But as a teacher, as a lecturer, we can play our role to help students to become independent, to become self-directed learners. Okay. So when we say self-directed learning, it's about students. We shift the responsibility of learning to the student, and we as a teacher help them and facilitate them. So it's about shifting the ownership, making the student understand that I have full responsibility for myself to learn. I will do my best to learn and do whatever necessary to go through the learning process. So students become responsible for setting their own goal, plan, and assess their own learning. So assessing their learning, so they become self-reflective. ataupun the word that educationists use is metacognitive. So metacognitive, I will touch on about metacognitive learning strategies. This is not only for students sebenarnya, for everyone including us. If we understand about metacognitive learning strategies, we can become a better learner. So what we want to do now, we want to empower students. We want to mengupayakan, we want to give the power to the students to be independent learners, to understand more about themselves, to understand more about how they learn. They have to ask a series of questions to themselves all the time. What have I learned today? For example, now you are listening to me now. At this point, if you are listening actively, probably you probably ask question in your head. Okay, what have I learned so far about self-directed learning? Or maybe you can, it's more kind of independent learner, a more kind of more aware of about your own self ability to learn and so on. Yeah. Always asking question. This type of ownership of learning means you have the responsibility. When you own something, you have that kind of feeling of ownership, sayangkan sesuatu. Of course, you will do as much as you can, right? To keep it, to maintain it, to make it better. So if you own a car, so you want the car looks always shiny and very nice. So you will, whether you will clean yourself, wash the car, or you send to the shop, car washing. So because you want to make it look good. The same thing as having ownership of learning will make the students feel more responsibility, so that they can learn better, they can learn more, and so on. So number 2 is autonomy. So empowering, giving the power. So we give the autonomy, student, we give the opportunity to the students, give them the freedom to decide, because they are adult learners especially. They have to decide because they are responsible for whatever they do. Decide how, the what, and the when they learn. We don't dictate. Kita tak control. We don't control. We don't dictate. But we let the students dictate their own pace of learning, the way how they want to learn, because they have a different way of preference, learning preference, and so on. When they want to learn. So we don't dictate that. I think as a parent also, we don't dictate, but we just guide them. So autonomy is very important, but we must make student understand. Autonomy, just like the Spider-Man in the film, in the movie, kan? With power come responsibility. So we can use the kind of phrase to make students understand. Now you are given more freedom to decide, to determine when you want to study, what you want to study, and so on. So I'm just guiding you, I'm just facilitating you, I'm not dictating you. So when we do that, we give the autonomy to the students. So for example, if we give the student the assignment, okay, group assignment. So in my case, I let the students to form their own group, but I give them a guideline. So for example, I like to see your group to have different ethnic groups, different races. So make it balanced as much as you can. Then I will let you to appoint your own group leader, things like that. So we give them the autonomy. We don't dictate every single detail, all the nitty-gritty, how you must get things done. If that is the case, meaning that, just like micromanaging everything, we don't trust the students we say we empower them, but we don't trust them. So empowerment always comes with trust and then accountability. That 3 things you must remember. Empowerment is about giving the autonomy, right? Then it will come with trust. We trust our students now. Then we tell our student, now I give you the autonomy, I empower you, I trust your ability to do things, whatever that necessary to accomplish the work, to get things done, to complete the assignment, and so on. That's what autonomy is about. Not give the autonomy, but we don't trust. We always look over their shoulder, always nak audit, always asking for data, report and so on kan. Macam universiti jugalah kan, bagi autonomy but we don't trust. Always asking for report dan sebagainya. Okay. Now motivation. To empower students is how do we help them to become independent learners or self-directed learners? The aspect of motivation, which is one of the adult learning principle. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of motivation, because this is like the catalyst, the fuel that would get students progress moving, just like a car that will need the fuel to get the car moving. So self-directed learners are driven by intrinsic motivation rather than extrinsic motivation. We want them to grow that intrinsic motivation. It comes from within. It comes from their own desire to learn. And when this happens, if the teacher asks the student to do one thing, they will do 10. This is a kind of motivated, highly motivated learners. Suruh buat satu, dia buat 2. Suruh buat satu, dia buat 3. Betul. Sebab
Bro,
dia,
ada soalan
yeah.
bro.
Ya?
Bro tengok dalam chat ada soalan.
Oh, saya tak tengok chat lah apa ni Dr. Sulman. Kalau you boleh tolong, ada ni, you bacakan.
Okey, daripada Marinagen. Prof, what is your opinion towards MQA requirement on SLT based on empowerment and autonomy? And student ambil masa less than apa yang kita letak ada dalam table 4. Ada yang perlukan masa yang lebih.
Yeah. Well, the SLT, we cannot do much about it because that's what the MQA have so-called prescribed. So the issue is what about the SLT? If Dr. siapa tadi boleh unmute the microphone, maybe boleh ask directly.
Puan Marina.
Puan Marina.
Puan Marina Jen.
Yeah. Can you directly ask a question? Clarify what you mean by that?
Puan Marina mungkin boleh on mic. Kita boleh chat sekejap.
Ya, boleh. We boleh.
Sebenarnya SLT tu as a guideline, bro, saya tengok. SLT yang kita MQA buat tu, for me is very good. Daripada SLT tu baru kita nampak. Just a guideline.
It's a guideline. It's a minimum. It's a minimum.
Minimum requirement. Tapi memang very very helpful bila kita ada SLT. Kalau tak, kita akan out of track.
The student learning time is actually is only a rough estimation. That's to me is not rigid, and that's the minimum number that you have to fulfill, and you have to show that every learning activity, independent learning, and so on done by the students within that prescribed hours is sufficient. But actually, of course, for self-directed learners, probably they do even more. I mean, they consume more time. They take more time, spend more time, because they know that the more they spend time to study, to learn, to go, find more resources and so on, it will benefit their own, it will benefit their themselves. So this is the kind of mindset that self-directed learners have. They don't feel that as a burden. So whatever that the assignment given to them, that's to them is an opportunity for them to learn more about the topic. They don't see that as a burden or something that they despise. So this is a kind of mindset yang kita cuba, we want to kind of instill or inculcate in our students. We try to make them understand that you should not just learn for the grade. Yes, of course, we encourage them to get good grade, but we want you to go beyond that. We want you to really learn whatever that you learn is for yourself, for your own benefits and so on. So when they realize that they need to they need to acquire the skills to learn and so on, this is where the intrinsic motivation comes in. Extrinsic motivation are the external factors, meaning that okay, if if you the first person who submit the assignment, I will give something, some gift, some hadiah. So that is what you call instant gratification. Even the examination is actually a way, one of its external, so-called external motivation. If you get good grade A, then it's good. You're feeling good, you're feeling good that you get grade A or grade in your exam. So there is actually external motivation. But this kind of motivation is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. But intrinsic motivation is more sustainable. So with respect to motivation, self-directed learners are driven by intrinsic motivation. They are always driven by curiosity. Let's say they learn a topic in the class and they won't stop there. That topic has invoked curiosity in their mind. So after the class, they will go and do more reading. They will find more references and so on, even though the lecturer they don't really ask them to do more reading. Or maybe the lecturer give one extra for the reading, but they will find more, maybe even better resources than the lecturer provide them, because they are so curious. They want to learn more about the topic. So our responsibility as a lecturer, as a teacher, is to try to invoke that curiosity in our student, to make them feeling so curious. They want to know more. So this is our role, to become a self-directed teacher or self-directed lecturer. Okay, and ultimately we want to foster a love of learning in our students. When the students love to learn, this is what self-directed learner is about. They just love to learn. They can't wait to go to our class because they want to learn about that course, the topic. So they're always looking forward to come to our class. Can we achieve that kind of motivation in our students, that they always look forward to come to our class? They don't feel like they are dragging their feet to come to our class. Okay. Dr. Zulman, maybe you can ask your student, are you always looking forward to come to my class, or you are always feeling like you are dragging yourself to come to my class? And see what they say.
Betul, bro.
Okay, tadi Dr. apa tadi, Marina tadi? Marina ya?
Puan Marina Jan.
Puan Marina. Because I'm curious what exactly that she has in mind about the SLT just now.
Dia nak tahu opinion Prof tentang SLT tu, MQA punya requirement on SLT. Sebab dia is it the SLT tu yang menggambarkan sebenarnya yang kita ngajar tu? Itulah based on empowerment.
No, the SLT ada two parts kan. One is the
dia dekat luar. Dia kata dekat luar.
Oh, one is where the student learn independently, kan? And the other part, apa kita panggil istilah yang digunakan, where they spend time in our class, face to face, kan? Apa dia panggil?
Sebelum kelas berapa jam, masa ngajar selepas. So dia kira macam tu, tiga.
So semua tu diambil kira lah dalam student learning time. The reason why MQA prescribe that minimum SLT tu is so that because of different lecturer dekat university especially kan, ada yang begitu enthusiastic sekali kan, so macam-macam dia nak buat, so Macam contoh macam saya ni lah, kalau kadang-kadang boleh terlebih-lebih pula kan. So jadi
Terlanggar.
student akan jadi dapat so called cognitive overload. Cognitive overload. Dia rasa
Betul.
terlalu banyak sangat lah lecturer ni, terlampau rajin, terlajak rajin. Okey. Tapi ada juga pula dia on the other extreme pula, langsung tak ada apa. Dia pergi kelas itu je lah. Lepas tu tak ada lagi benda-benda lain apa ni kan, yang untuk meningkatkan kefahaman pelajar dan sebagainya. So dia terlalu ni pula. So that's why we need to have some guideline of what would be the minimum. That's the reason why the SLT. But apa ni, to me is something that easily achievable, that number of hours, and we can put a lot of things within that to really give meaning to the SLT, not just simply fulfilling the criteria, but to give the real meaning to that SLT. I hope semua orang boleh berfikir macam tu lah. Not whatever that we do, not to fulfill MQA sahaja tau. I think we need to change that mindset. But we really give meaning to that. So what does the 40 hours per credit, 40 hours SLT equivalent to 1 credit tu, what does it mean and how do we really put the meaning into it?
Betul.
Ya.
Puan Marina dia kata okey, dia jelas.
Jelas ya, okey. Sebab saya bimbang kalau ada soalan-soalan yang mungkin saya tak dapat clarify betul-betul ya. Sebab kita ni now we are learning together and we want to make sure that everyone understand and learn something from it ya. And of course number 4, the elements of self-directed learning and self-directed learners, reflection. Students consistently reflect on their learning process to improve and refine their skill. So student yang macam ini yang independent learners ni, dia sentiasa habis kelas saja ataupun semasa kelas pun kan, atau di penghujung kelas, okay, what have I learned, so what are the things that I still don't understand, so I must take this opportunity when the lecturer open to asking, okay, siapa ada soalan dan sebagainya, he or she will be the first to raise their hand and ask questions. This is kind of reflective students. And we also as lecturer should also be a reflective practitioner as well. Habis kelas saja, okay, how did I do today? Did I manage to achieve the learning outcome for the lesson? Did I manage to engage the students in the activity? Did I manage to get the students to develop their critical thinking through the activities? Did I manage to do this and that? Did I manage to achieve this and that? That is reflective practitioner. And on the student side, the same thing. Okay. Ada lagi soalan dalam chat? Apa ni Dr. Zulman? Tak ada.
Tak ada.
Okay. Tolong monitor ya. So that I can focus on this screen here. Now, this is if you want to take a textbook definition of self-directed learning and self-directed learners lah. It is a process in which learners take responsibility in understanding their learning needs, establishing their learning goals, and implementing learning strategies and evaluation. So in the context of our students, if you are listening now, I hope there are students listening to this. All of you want to make yourself, to develop yourself to become self-directed learners. Trust me, if you learn how to do this, if you learn to develop yourself to become self-directed learners, you will become a lifelong learners. And when you go out to work in the real life, you will appreciate the value of become a self-directed learners and lifelong learners. Anywhere you go, any job that you do, not only you will survive, but you will do well, you will perform excellently, and you will flourish. So remember, surviving is not enough. You want to flourish. Okay? So what do you need to do now? So I'm addressing students. If the students are listening now, but actually everyone, including myself. If you want to be self-directed learner, you must first understand about learning. There are so many theories and principles of concept about learning. We can only become better learner, better and better and better every day. Read a lot about learning, yeah? Then you have a very specific goal to achieve. Okay, this month I want to read this book. I must finish reading this book. I want to learn about whatever the book is about. I want to learn more and then try to apply to improve myself for personal development. Or if I read something about, let's say I want to learn more about doing logic tree. This come to my mind, how to logic tree, if to help you in making decision making. Yeah? So how to develop logic tree in making to help you to improve making decision. So I read this book and I want to finish this book this month, and I want to apply some of the concept, some of the principles. So that learning goal is very clear. Okay, and implementing after that action. Okay, not you can read 1,000 books on motivation, for example, but you never take a single action. You never, step forward and start to apply. So implementing learning strategies and evaluation. This is actually from Knowles, Malcolm Knowles, yeah, very famous on adult learning theories and so on. So I hope it is clear to everyone here. We should strive to become self-directed learners. Take the ownership of our own learning. We are clear with our learning goal. We are always proactive. We take action to for our own learning. Okay. Now, the next level, moving from self-directed learning to self-regulated. Ultimately, if we can achieve this level, then this would be the ideal, because self-regulated learners can be described as students can be described, or any learners can be described as self-regulated to the degree that they are metacognitively. Don't worry if you don't understand or never heard of the word metacognitive. I have slides to explain more about this, but they are metacognitively, motivationally, and behaviorally active participants in their own learning process. In other words, they become independent learners. They are not being dictated by anyone. They are self-motivated, highly self-motivated. They are self-propelled, meaning that they push themselves forward at their own will, at their own effort. And then that translates into behavior. You can see how they behave when they become self-regulated. They are so active, proactive. They are always alert. They are always ke depan, always be kind of the one who will lead the thing. So they are active participants in their own learning process. They are not passive participant waiting for instruction. Okay. So kan kita ada peribahasa, kadang-kadang kita kata apa ni, kau ni macam pahat dengan tukul lah, kan? Kita marah apa kan, macam pahat dengan tukul, kalau tak diketuk tak jalan. So maknanya that person just waiting for instruction. Okay, you must do this, then only things get done, or sometimes not get done also. If you don't give the instruction, then the job will not get done. So, okay. So because they are just waiting for instruction. What's next? What's next? What's next? They are not proactive because they don't have that motivation. There's no intrinsic motivation. Then when things get done, okay, I've done this. What's the incentive? What's in it for me? Always waiting for extrinsic kind of rewards.
Hmm.
Extrinsic, the rewards is actually extrinsic motivation. But how many times can we reward? How much can we reward? It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. So self-regulated learners are very highly motivated, very proactive. Yeah.
Prof,
Yeah.
maknanya self-directed learning ni come first lah. Then the next level is self-regulated learning.
Yeah.
Is it?
I would say so. Yeah. I would say the ultimately, but some people have different. Ada two school of thought juga ni. Tapi pada saya nak make it simple. Self-regulated ni is the highest level where the person is highly motivated, enthusiastic, proactive. Maknanya dia dah macam auto cruise tau. Kalau kereta tu dah auto cruise dah.
Okay, faham.
Dia dah memang orang kata apa, you tak perlu nak buat banyak lah. Tak perlu tekan minyak, orang kata tak perlu tekan minyak pun kereta lah jalan 110 km per hour. Macam tu. Okay.
Allah Akbar. Okay, bro.
So kalau nak lebih jelas ni, kalau kita tengok yang ini kan, I love this one. This one original diagram tau. I buat diagram ni original tapi idea I ambil daripada buku ni. Itu nanti plagiarism pula kan. Tapi I ambil idea daripada buku ni, kemudian I buat dalam bentuk diagram macam ni sebab saya suka visualize dengan diagram, senang nak faham. Ya. Tapi let us dwell on this a little bit ya, sebab yang ni penting tau. Sebab dia berkait dengan student engagement. So, kita memang, we always talk about student engagement kan. How do we engage student cognitively, behaviorally, emotionally. Tapi nak capai the level of student engagement yang tinggi, it's not easy. It's not easy. Okay? Walaupun dalam grup 30 orang, 40 orang dalam kelas pun, consider small lah tu. Ya? 60, 50. My class always 50 hingga 60 orang. To get everyone to really engage, meaning that they engage cognitively. Dalam kelas dia fikirannya tidak melayang. Dia berfikir tentang apa yang sedang kita bincangkan. Dia engage cognitively, all thinking. Dia engage emotionally. Emotionally meaning that they really feel excited. Emosi dia dalam keadaan yang excited, teruja, seronok lah dengar ni, nak faham lebih lagi. Then engage behaviorally. You can see in the form of dia punya face expression and so on, memang dia nampak teruja nak belajar macam tu. So kalau kita tengok ni, a continuum of engagement ni, everyone would dream to have this highly engaged students. Tapi of course lah dalam online ni, boleh sebab kamera pun tak on kan, jadi saya pun tak nampak lah whether you are behaviorally engaged or not. Tapi dalam face to face kita boleh nampak lah tu. Okay. And I don't know also about you are emotionally engaged or not, tak nampak face expression. Kan? So, and hopefully you are cognitively engaged. So, our dream is always, we want the students to be fully engaged, highly engaged on this end. But when the students start to disengage, so some student in the comfort zone, dia dengar-dengar jugalah, tapi at the same time dia check dia punya WhatsApp, check dia punya Facebook, check dia punya email, dia kata dia multitasking kan, so dia boleh fokus.
Tapi we have a foreigner bro. Now we need to speak full English.
Okay.
Foreigner.
Thank you. Okay. So and on the other end, this is what all lecturers would not want this when the students totally disengage. Why this happens? So in any classroom, at any one time, I think we will get a spectrum of engagement. I think it's not to say impossible, but very hard to get everyone to highly engage. But I want to relate this with self-directed and self-regulated learners. When we have our student in the class, those who are what we described as in the last two slides just now as self-directed and self-regulated learners, these are the type of students or learners that would invest. Invest what? Invest their time, invest their mind. How do we know? These are the type of students who always ask questions. And the type of question that they ask is also kind of very deep, critical, thought-provoking questions. Okay? And they always ask question every class. And these are the type of students who value their own learning, because the time that they spend with us in the classroom or even like now online, they really want to focus. They want to you make every second, every minute that they spend in the class really meaningful, and they get the return of time that they invest. Because they value their learning, they don't want to waste their time. You decide to join the session this morning, because and I'm sure you expect to get some value from the time that you invest coming to this session. So in order to do that, maybe you want to listen very attentively. Maybe you want to really focus. You want to ask questions. You will share some of the good points in the chat. You become active participants. And this type of student will become active students in the classroom. So if you see when I join any webinar, if I'm the participant, you will see I'm one of the participants.
One of participant want to ask.
Okay, go ahead.
Fadila, if you want to ask question?
Go ahead, yes.
Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam.
I just was wondering about participation and investing, asking questions in terms of students' part. So I received a comment last semester, for example, where I had foundation students, young students, and I like to do active participation in class where they have to participate in activities and so on. And I received a written comment that they don't like that because they are shy or they are introverted. I'm not sure how they define themselves as introverted. So we have usually two types of students, some of the students, and especially in our culture, right?
Yeah.
That they are very, they do not like to be active, whereas, so that was the comment that I got inside my evaluation that, doctor likes to make active intervention, talk in class and things like that, whereas I'm the type that's shy or introverted, so it increased, so it makes me not motivated to learn or something like that.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, very good input. Thank you, Dr. Fadila. And I have also received that kind of comment also for my class. Yeah, and many lecturers also have informed me. They also receive that kind of comments from students, and I think this is quite common. And what's the reason for this? The reason, because as I mentioned earlier, our students that come to the university, they come from the 12 years, lebih kurang 12 tahun, about 12 years in school, the K-12 kind of education. And the environment, the system and environment in school, at least I'm talking about Malaysian school, do not encourage, do not foster that kind of environment where students will become independent learners, students will become confident learners, student would develop that kind of communication skill. So when we have such a system that do not create the opportunity and rooms and space for students to develop those kind of attributes, what do we expect when they come to the university? And now suddenly, like the lecturers, like Dr. Fadila, like myself, we create so many things in our classroom to give them the opportunity to speak up, to share their thoughts, to be more active participants. this kind of so-called introvert students would feel kind of not ready to participate, not ready to participate. And then if we don't address this, if we don't help them, they will become slowly withdrawing. You can see here, withdrawing. They are not happy or not confident to participate. So slowly they will withdraw. That's why we have to pay attention when you we have to observe some of the students who are kind of reluctant to participate. So we need to have a separate engagement with them, talk to them separately, try to explain to them why I'm doing this. Because so you have to explain. We want you to be more active. We want you to develop the skill, communication. We want you to be more confident to communicate in the among your peers, so that when you go out from the university, you will be ready for the real world and so on. So I think we need to take additional. That's why sometimes we have to go beyond. We have to take the extra, so-called the extra mile, extra length, beyond the time that we have in the classroom. This is beyond the SLT, where we have to engage them in a discussion, to explain them, try to make them understand. So the extra effort need to be in place there. Yeah, I have received this kind of comment, Dr. Fadila, don't worry, and that's what I did. That's what I did. You know, and engage them in separately, individually, or more on personal basis, to make them understand why we are doing this in the classroom. Of course, in the first day of the class, usually I will talk to everyone in the class that I'm going to do this way. This is my strategy, this is my approach, and so on. And the reason why I'm doing this kind of active learning and so on, because I want you to become this and this and this. Yeah. So it's a very good question, because we can highlight this part. Why some of students in our class become disengaged and disconnected altogether? Because they become
we have a question.
Yeah, silakan.
From Perabagaran. Prof, I have difficulty focusing on class after 45 minutes or 1 hour. So what is the best practice to keep focus?
Oh, this I believe this one from a student, right?
Maybe from student.
Yeah. So well, when we I have a few more slides to share. Prabhakaran, you will see that focus is about how do you pay attention to the class, right? And the reason why you lose focus, you have to kind of ask a series of questions to yourself. Do you get distracted, for example, or do you have interest in the topic being discussed in the class? So it's all about motivation. Again, just now I mentioned about motivation. Do you have that intrinsic motivation in yourself to learn about the topic beyond studying or learning the course because you want to get good grade in the exam, which is by itself is an extrinsic motivation. But beyond that, you know that whatever that you learn in this course probably might be useful when you go out and become, let's say, if you are doing engineering, you'll become an engineer. So if you know that, if you can convince yourself, Prabhakaran, if you can convince yourself that this is going to be important for me, will be priceless for me when I go out and become an engineer, a real engineer in the real life, the knowledge that I have here will be very useful. So I might as well invest my time now to really learn, not only for the grade, but for my own knowledge, skill that would be useful when I go out to work. So you try to instill that interest in yourself for that particular course or topic that you are learning. So sometimes losing focus also can be is related to also physical, the physiology. So there's many books actually on how to focus, but I remember one of the reason is actually physical or physiology. You get you feel sleepy because you don't have enough energy, or last night you you went to bed at 3 a.m. because you play games. So when you play games, you sleep late, you don't have enough energy, so you will lose focus easily. Sometimes the reason is also due to emotion. So maybe I don't know whether if you have the opportunity to really go into this topic in detail, maybe for the students, how to focus, we can elaborate more on this. Yeah, but when students lose focus, this is where they start to become disengaged. They will drift, hanyut. Yeah, they will drift to this zone. So students who are listening now, you don't want to be in this zone. You don't want to be in the comfort zone, because some people say there's no growth in comfort zone. There's no growth in comfort zone. You cannot grow in the comfort zone. But here, in the blue zone, this is where you grow. This is where you really learn. This is where you become effective learner. When you are self-directed and self-regulated learner, you are highly motivated. You invest your time. You ask questions. You are well prepared before you come to the class. You have already, now with ChatGPT, you can list a lot of questions, maybe hard question, come to the class and ask the lecturer and see whether the lecturer can answer or not. Okay. So because when you invest your time in learning, meaning that you value your learning. Okay. But what ultimately, everyone, including myself, we want to be self-regulated learner. Because when you are self-regulated learner, you are so like in the driving seat. You drive your own learning, not anyone else, not your lecturer, not your parent, not your friends. You are totally responsible to drive your own learning. You set your own goals. The example I gave just now, I want to read this book. By end of this month, I finish this book and I will take some of the learning points and I will act upon it. Seeking feedback. Okay, you always ask your lecturer, how am I doing? You always ask your friends, ask question and so on, and always do self-assessment or self-reflection. Always do self-SWOT. Yeah, SWOT, SWOT. Okay, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay, self-SWOT, we call it. So these are kind of self-directed and self-regulated learners that everyone should strive to become. Everyone. Although today we talk about more, our mind is more on the student, lecturers, teachers, helping students to become self-directed learners. But actually, everyone should strive to become self-directed and self-regulated learners. All right. So shall we take? Yeah.
10:30 now. I think we take a break. But before take a break, maybe you can see the chat. I think this question can read the.
Okay, let me check the chat before we take a break for 10 minutes. Okay, not everyone value the opinion or welcome questions. So it's difficult sometimes to get engaged. First time, second time, speak out. Then if get neglected, then lose all the courage to speak out next time. How to overcome this mindset? So Islam Fahmida.
Well, maybe he can speak on the mic. If you understand the question, what?
Yeah, I understand. I think not everyone value the opinion or welcome questions. I don't know whether this is a student, I think, maybe. Well, this is all about culture, habit. Okay, so maybe our culture, like Malaysian culture, right? We are not used to having a so-called intellectual engagement and intellectual discourse, intellectual discussion. We are not used to have like having a debate, exchange of opinion and so on. Intellectual discussion means we discuss in an intellectual manner, with facts, with data, with strong arguments, theory, everything. So that's intellectual discussion. So this is actually a culture that we need to promote. We need to develop. That's what we call a new culture of learning that we need to develop. And we are still far from it. We are still far from it. So it's the role of the teacher, the lecturer, to create this kind of environment and then to help students to understand first why we want to create this kind of culture, so that they can appreciate, they can understand and appreciate, and then willingly participate, not reluctant. Okay, and then when we have a discussion, when the students start to, let's say, raise their hand and speak up, everyone should be a good listener. Everyone should listen first. Listen to understand, not listen to respond. Understand first, then we respond. And we give ample opportunity for the person to speak up, to speak their mind, to voice out their thoughts. We don't have this culture yet, So I think it's a matter of time, Islam, This need to be, is a kind of a long haul, I would say, that gradually we need to develop this kind of environment. Okay, Al-Ogaidi Isra, long name here. Programming is a complex and abstract subject which can make it difficult for students to stay engaged. This is especially true for beginners who may not have the necessary background knowledge to understand the concepts involved. How can help ensure that students are engaged and successful in learning programming, especially in online class? I think this is very good. We are listening. Wow, I think this. I'm really excited now because we get to listen from the student side here. So what's his name just now? Al-Gaidi trying to say here. Difficult subject, tough subject. Okay, programming. So not everyone will have, can move along together. Some will learn faster than others. Some will learn slower. So those who find it struggling to understand, and the lecturer in this case just move ahead without and not paying attention to those students who are still struggling behind. And when this happens again and again, the students who are struggling will slowly become withdrawn and hanyut, drift, become disconnected. This is always the case. So what shall we do now? This is for on the lecturer side, on the teacher side. They have to understand this. They have to observe. This is what we call, because the diversity of our student, learning diversity, learn different pace and so on. So good teacher would recognize this and would take necessary steps or measure, intervention here. What do we do? So in this case, for example, the teacher or the lecturer can do a scaffolding kind of strategy, scaffold. So step by step, from the very easy to a more difficult, so that we take the student, we get the student to become to in the readiness state to go to the higher, more complex concept, more complex programming, and so on. So scaffold, building step by step, getting students to be into the readiness state to go to the higher level. So this is where inclusive classroom means. What inclusive classroom means? Inclusive means we make sure that everyone is moving along together. No one is left behind. Of course, easier said than done, of course, but there are ways of doing it. We just need to learn how. Thank you so much for that question. It is really good. We are listening from the students now, and we need to address that. Right, so what else? Prof, I have difficulty focusing. Okay, that's already. Oh, okay. I think I have addressed all the questions. Isra just now, Isra, PhD student. Thank you for your questions. I think they really give us something to think about. So okay, Dr. Zulman, we can take 10 minutes break.
5 minutes, 10 minutes.
5 minutes. No, it's okay. For me, 5 minutes
5
is
minutes
okay.
lah.
No, 5 minutes. Okay, we come back. We come back at like 10:50 macam tu lebih kurang.
10:50, okay.
10:50, yeah.
10:50.
All right.
Alright.
10:50. Okay, we are back. Okay, we'll be back.
Mm.
Okay, boleh kita teruskan, Dr. Zulman?
Okay, Prof. But we have one question, Prof.
Ada.
Before you start, you just see only.
Ada soalan
And
lagi?
short answer in chat.
Sekejap
How can we create a conducive learning environment that minimize distractions and promoted focusing? Oh, still about focus.
Okay. How can we create a conducive learning environment that minimizes distractions and promotes focusing? Well, this is basically on the lecturer or the teacher side. More on how the design, the lesson design that would really engage students, get students to participate, get students busy to work in a group. For example, I give one example. If we use one technique called what's the name? Allah Akbar.
The theory.
Bukan ada apa tu? The method that we use. Oh my God, sorry. Allah Akbar. Where we divide students into the group, and then each group will have a so-called Allah Akbar. What's the method? Oh, it slipped my mind. But
Is it jigsaw, Prof?
Jigsaw. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Azli. Jigsaw, Allahu Akbar. If you use jigsaw, so Dr. Azli may be familiar dengan jigsaw technique, right? Jigsaw technique. So those who have done or familiar with jigsaw technique, if you do this with your student in the class, how could you cannot get students that would not participate, because everyone has to play their role. Everyone will have a role. Okay, so and you can actually do spend even the whole 1 hour doing the jigsaw study, focus on one big topic, for example, and at the end of the jigsaw activity, the student would be able to learn whatever they need to learn in terms of concept, principle, facts, and so on. And this is particularly relevant for big topic, for big topic where you cannot have so many lectures. So in jigsaw approach, every student would have to participate. There's no choice. They have to participate. They have to present. They have to lead the discussion and so on. Okay, so I don't know whether this is being used widespread widely in Unit 10, but to answer that question, how can we create a conducive learning environment that minimize distraction and promote focus? There'll be no time for students even to look at their WhatsApp or to be distracted, because everyone would have to focus, because time is very limited to carry out this jigsaw activity, and students will really have to master the part that they have to teach to the group. So they will get so busy, no time to get distracted. So it's all about lesson design, lesson plan. And this is where the lecturer, the teacher would have to play the role now. Okay, so that's to answer the question. Okay, I hope that is clear to those to the person who asked the question. Now, let's go back to screen. This one, yeah. So a continuum of engagement. I think this slide, there's a lot of information here. if we get our student in class to be self-directed and self-regulated, they will invest their time, they will be proactive. So they are the one who actually will drive their own learning. They take the ownership, they take the responsibility, they always reflect on what they have learned, what they have not learned, what they don't understand, and so on. Sometimes when we talk about active learning, we mistaken the students' participation. We see that they are busy doing things, they are talking with each other in a group and so on. We thought that they are paying attention, responding to questions. So we describe this as active learning, which is correct, but not good enough. What we want is beyond this, which we can achieve that if our students are self-directed and self-regulated, because they will have this characteristic. What we don't want as a teacher, and what we don't want as students or as learners, is to get yourself into the comfort zone where you have this kind of attitude. Take it easy, take it easy. I don't want to focus so much because later on I can read on my own. I have notes and so on. So this is comfort zone. So remember, nothing grow in the comfort zone. If you want to grow yourself, go to this zone. But don't put yourself in a danger zone, which is when you get disengaged. Or worse, you are totally disengaged. When you are totally disengaged, for whatever reason, maybe you feel that you are not being you are ignored by the lecturer, you are ignored by other students, you are not playing your role, or the teacher does not appreciate whatever that you do, so you become you despise, you become really unhappy, you become totally disengaged. So sometimes they rebel, they try to fight back, so they become disruptive, distract others, disrupting the classroom, and then this is not healthy and not productive. Right. Now, how do we foster, how do we promote, how do we encourage, how do we develop this so-called environment for self-directed learners? So here, the student and the teacher, the lecturer, play their roles. Okay, let's see the student role. So if you are a student, or if we are a learner in the course, in the workshop. So to become self-directed learner, you must become a director of your own learning. Remember, you become independent. You have the freedom now. You take charge. I like to use the term take charge. Take charge of your own learning. Okay, take charge of your own learning. You have the responsibility. You take the ownership. This is for me. This is for my personal development. This is for my self-growth. You are detective of your own thinking. So this is what we call metacognitive. You always reflect. You always think about, your own thinking. So sometimes people say metacognitive is thinking about thinking. Thinking about thinking. You think about your own kind of thinking process. Oh, saya punya webcam tak on ya? Dr. Zaman?
Bro.
Saya tak nampak menyala dia. So saya kena cari
Okay.
kat mana webcam ni. Kat sini, okay. Saya tak nampak lampu menyala ni.
Alright.
Ya, okay. Okay. Dah menyala dah lampu webcam ni. Okay. And okay, a student role, director of their own learning, detective of their own learning, thinking, collaborator with peers and teachers. These are a kind of independent, self-directed learners. They're always willing and looking forward to work together. They feel that They need this social environment, social interaction. That's where they are become very lively. They feel so excited because even introvert, when they get into the right circle, the right friends, and when people appreciate their contribution and so on, the teacher appreciate their input, their question, their contribution, then they will feel slowly to be part to the self-belonging. Remember early in some of my other presentation, I talk about 3 C's: communicate, connect, and community. So now they become part of the community of learners. So when we have community, then we have people are willing voluntarily to collaborate, and they want to pull their weight and give as much contribution as possible. Then self-directed learner also a pattern seeker. What does it mean by pattern seeker? Because pattern seeker through diverse ideas and experiences. So these are the people who all independent learners or self-directed learners. They are this kind of students who come to the class with a lot of already knowledge. So when they look at when they have the opportunity, when during the discussion and so on, where they can now give their own input, because they have a lot of ideas, a lot of knowledge and experience. Yeah. So when we have students who have all these characteristics or attributes as a self-directed learners, how this translate into behavior? So we can see the behavior. So these are how it look like. These are the students who are co-constructing success criteria, meaning that they know what success looks like. So if we want to get an A, what do we need to do? So this when they do the assignment, they know exactly, they know the rubrics, they understand the rubrics, they know the criteria and so on, in order to get good grade for the assignment. So, and then they will work together with the group, with the friends, to achieve that. Yeah. So then they are very clear with their learning goal, what actually they want to achieve from this course, beyond the learning outcome of the course, but for themselves now. So setting their own learning goal, monitoring their thinking. So metacognitive means they're always thinking, always reflecting, always looking back, and always looking for gaps, looking for their weaknesses, and try to improve. Self-questioning, always question themselves. Self-regulating, so meaning that they regulate. They know where, when the time when they need to put more effort, the time when they need to ask questions. So they regulate themselves. So just like a regulator for like our aircon now, our air conditioning, for example, we set at this certain temperature. So then they stop. When the temperature rise, it will turn on again. So it's self-regulating kind of mechanism. Selecting among strategies. So self-directed learners, they have so many strategies to learn, and they can choose depending on the situation. So it's a situational. They are very aware of the situation, and they can pick up any tools, any strategies, any technique necessary depending on the situation. So these are kind of very agile, very adaptable kind of students, which in the world of VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, this is a type of so-called foolproof student, foolproof, talent that we want to have in the future. Adaptable, selecting among strategies, providing self and peer feedback, applying the feedback, deciding what to investigate next, adjusting learning behavior. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, students, if you are listening to this, you can become a better, much better learner now. If you understand this and try to develop yourself to become, to have this kind of attributes. Now, the teacher's role now. Okay, just now the learner's role. What about the teacher's role? Okay. So now teacher take the role not only as to teach, but to design, as a designer of a lesson, and designer of empowering lesson plan, because we want to empower self-directed learners. Therefore, we want to empower them through the activities, assessment, everything that we have in our lesson. That's how we empower them. We give them the opportunity, like in the jigsaw technique just now, we empower them to be responsible to teach one small aspect of the topic. So they have to learn by themselves. They have to discuss among themselves. They have to make sure that they really understand about the concept before they later on they have to teach to their group, right? So that's basically jigsaw technique. So we empower them. We give them opportunity, and they become the so lecturer become the designer, the lesson designer. Then they also become detective of student thinking. They will monitor, they will observe, they will become more alert, looking at, let's say, all the students in the class who are not really pulling their weight, who are not really paying attention, who are now start to drift, who are now not really putting the focus or lose focus. So if the teacher is always on, monitoring, they should be able to get everyone on board on the same page and do a necessary intervention when some students start to disconnect from the class. The teacher also become evaluator of their own impact on learning. So they ask questions whether at the end of the class, after the class, whether they have done well, whether they have got the students to really understand and achieve the learning outcome, whether they have given equal attention to everyone, empower everyone, and so on. They become curator of diverse resources and experiences. So what it might look like if the teachers play this role: establishing a collaborative, safe culture, establishing credibility, making thinking outline a routine. So thinking now become routine, because thinking is difficult. People are lazy to think naturally, but now become like a second nature, become always like almost automatic. Modeling thinking, they can demonstrate to the students how we do thinking, how we apply the critical thinking and so on in problem solving. Modeling risk-taking, modeling learning from errors, cognitive coaching students, providing and soliciting feedback, adjusting instruction as needed, as necessary. Okay, so all these ideas I took from this book, Learning That Transfers, Designing Curriculum for a Changing World by Julie Stern and Co. So many of the ideas that I'm sharing here now is not my original idea. So I'll just curate. So you see here, curator of diverse resources and experiences. Because I'm not an expert in education. I was a professor of technology. I was not a professor of education. But what I basically do, I read a lot of books on learning. Then I curate the content. First, I need to understand first, then I curate. I put together all the ideas, distill the main ideas, the key ideas, and putting them together, blend them together in this presentation, so that when you are listening to this, can save you a lot of time because I have distilled only the necessary, the key ideas here. This is what learning designers do. And now, if all the teachers, lecturers now go beyond teaching, so we become the learning designer, I think our students would benefit a lot. Dr. Zulman, so far okay? Ada soalan dalam chat?
So far, okay.
So far okay. I would like to invite everyone. If you have question, you can put in the chat or you can interject anytime. Just unmute your microphone. And I prefer if I have a lot of interjection because we have discussion. Yeah. So don't be so quiet over there on the other side of the screen. I would love to have a discussion and some feedback from you.
Now we have 58 participants.
So 58. I would rather have 10, but active 10. Well, as long as you are listening actively, if you don't want to ask question, it's okay. But I would really encourage if you can, even if not question, you can share your thought. Share your thought. For example, if we have, let's say, how you deal with students to make them self-directed. So what you do in your class or what you do. So share with us because the real life experience is probably very useful. Okay, there's something called related to motivation is self-efficacy. Why I highlight about self-efficacy? Because this is essential for.
Prof, now we have questions.
Okay. Carry on.
Can you give some strategies that educators can use to create a more effective and supportive environment for synchronized learning activities?
Oh, wow. Itu good question. Tapi that one is a full like 2 or even 3 hours. I have a separate presentation for that. I'm not sure whether the rest of the year I have included that topic. But we are talking about how do we strategies or things that we can do to engage students. We are talking about student engagement here. In terms of the cognitive engagement, emotional engagement, behavioral engagement. There are many strategies that we can use. So I won't be able to, to share very quickly here. There will be a separate discussion. But if you like, I can give you some reading material if you are interested to read the books. Maybe at the end of this presentation, I can share. Yeah.
Okay,
of course, there are strategies, and there are plenty of strategies we can use. There are books that give us the kind of the recipe. Okay, this is what you can do for cognitive engagement and so on. So we just need to adopt or adapt some of the strategies in our classroom. Yeah, don't worry, there are many. Yeah. All right, so remind me to share some books on that, Dr. Zulman, at the end kalau saya terlupa.
All right.
Yeah, okay. Now, self-efficacy. And kita ada lebih kurang 15 minit lagi ya, Dr. Zulman. Self-efficacy is related to growth mindset. Pernah dengar tak growth mindset as opposed to fixed mindset? Fixed mindset is growth mindset is like Malaysia boleh, I can, versus fixed mindset, tak boleh lah, I can't. There is a fixed mindset. I can't. Oh, I'm not tech savvy lah. I'm not tech savvy like you. Okay. So that is a fixed mindset. Growth mindset or self-efficacy is a belief, a set of attitudes that one can achieve their goals and succeed in a given situation. I think, sorry for a spelling mistake because this slide I took from somewhere. So self-efficacy is about self-belief. You have the confidence. You have the belief. You can do. I can do. So it's a growth mindset. Okay. So this is a kind of person who say, let's say, okay, have you achieved, let's say, or have you completed this task or not? Then maybe at that point the person has not completed the task. So what would be the answer? No, I haven't completed the task. A better answer would be, if you have the so-called growth mindset, you say not yet, but I'm getting there. Okay. So using technology in the classroom, no, I'm not using technology in my classroom. Or better still, or not yet. But I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn how to use AI in my class, AI in learning, AI in teaching. Not yet. So that kind of not yet mindset, you are telling yourself that I'm not there yet, but I know I can, and I know I will. Okay.
Prof,
Yeah.
one question from Puan Zurina. Prof,
Yeah, Puan Zurina.
how do you see technology and digital tools influencing students' self-efficacy in modern educational environments?
Wow, good question. Yes, technology is actually tools, and just like if we empower our students, give them the right tools, digital tools, technology, to help them to learn. In fact, I have also a program for that. Yeah, empower them using the tools, the digital tools, because we cannot take for granted that our millennial generation are very good with technology. Yes, they are, but for certain things, not so much for learning, maybe. So this is where we can help them. But before we can help them, we have to first have to kind of the skill, the knowledge. We also are very kind of tech savvy, and then only we can help our student. So the answer to that is yes, we can use all these digital tools to help them to become more independent, self-directed learners, because this tool can be used for them to learn more effectively. But we need to show them, guide them, and facilitate them using all these technologies. Yeah. So the self-efficacy, when you have low self-efficacy, then you probably have this kind of dialogue. Yeah. I will never be able to master this. I was born this way, so you just accept. I fail, and that's it. Okay, whereas high self-efficacy, someone who has growth mindset and self-efficacy, they will never give up. So they say, I'll try harder next time. Maybe I haven't tried hard enough. I can achieve this, not yet. But I'm going to put more effort. Maybe I haven't put enough effort. I'm in charge of my own learning. Take charge. Nobody will be able to help me. They can only tell me or advise me. But in the end, I have to take charge of my own learning. That's self-efficacy. To become self-directed learners, we must cultivate this self-efficacy mindset. Everyone, because everyone is a learner. For our students, now we can help them to promote, to develop, to cultivate, to grow this self-efficacy mindset. So we are coming to the end now. So what basically, if I want to put these things together, what we have discussed in the last hour, we must understand learning. Everyone, I'm not talking only about student, but everyone is a learner, right? So we must understand learning. Then if we are teaching, so as a lecturer now, as a teacher, we must understand learners. We must have empathy. We must understand what are the strategies that we can put in our lesson when we design our lesson. So there's the question just now about what kind of strategies we can use to engage learners, to make them become self-directed and so on. So that's another big topic there. Today is about just giving you an overview and understanding what is the meaning of self-directed and self-regulated, what are the attributes and characteristics. It's more on that, yeah. And I want to mention before I end, the effective learners are metacognitive learners. I mentioned about metacognitive. So what is actually metacognitive in the context of learning? Because learning is messy. You must recognize this. Learning is not easy. Learning is not linear path like this. And if we know that learning is convoluted, convoluted like this, before we achieve the success, before we achieve the learning goals, and therefore, as a lecturer, as a teacher, knowing learning is messy like this, convoluted, so we cannot teach linearly. We cannot teach from one point to the point like that. So we take them through the journey. When learning is like this, I teach like this, right? We want to take a shortcut. We want to make things easy for us, not for students. So learning is about connecting the dot. Okay. Making learning meaningful is our aim, and everyone should strive for this. So that at the end of the course, at the end of the lesson, at the end of this session today, why we are talking about students self-directed learning, self-directed learners, now I hope it makes sense to you why this is important. You can see the big picture rather than seeing the forest, see the forest for the tree, meaning see the big picture rather than only looking at the micro level. So if you understand about learning, and we understand that learner starting from zero, we want to take them to hero, zero to hero. So become novice to the more experienced learner. So initially, like one of the question mentioning just now, learning programming. So they are fresh. So they are in the challenge zone. Everything is new and difficult for them. As a lecturer, as a teacher, we must understand this because we were once a student. We were once struggling also. So this is what we call challenge zone. Because we are learning new things. Just like even, at any point when we learn new topics, we always feel challenged. We feel, difficult to understand. But after that, we learn more and more. We put more effort. We do more exercises, more drills, and so on. Then we go into the learning zone. This is where really the real learning happens. This become more experienced learner, and hopefully we become into the expert learner zone. This is also called agile zone, where we can now start to apply our knowledge. We can start to teach to others as well. So this is what we call metacognitive learning strategies. And if we understand this, there's a question about how do we design our lessons so that the student can become independent and student-centered learning. So these are some of the strategies, but I don't have time to elaborate. This could be another big topic, so-called to engage the students. So, but very quickly, these are so-called metacognitive based learning and teaching and learning strategies. So that on the student side, we want the student to become agile and resilient, self-directed and self-regulated. This kind of students who are listening now, whether you want to know whether you are self-directed learners or self-regulated learners or not, look at this one. Are you always seeking to learn, asking this question? What am I seeking to learn or be able to do? What have I learned at the end of this class? At the end of this week, at the end of this month, at the end of this semester? How can I take my learning to the next level? You're always looking forward now. So looking backward and looking forward, how will I make my personal learning, personal meaning of this content? What do I currently know or think about the topic? That's on the student side. On the teacher side, if you practice metacognitive based teaching, you also ask questions to yourself every time. What are the most important aspects of this lesson? What are the key concepts that the students must get it? Where might students encounter difficulties? So you see where the student would struggle. So you make sure that you will help them, you will scaffold and so on. How can I link this content to the prior knowledge? Is this lesson going as I planned? And many more. So at the end of the day, the bottom line is the students, self-directed learners will be able to develop the skill to learn how to learn. When this really happens, this is the ultimate thing that we want them to achieve. Because when anyone who have the skill to learn how to learn, the skill to how to learn, because they have learned how to learn, so whenever they go, they will not only survive, but they will perform well and flourish. On the teacher side, if they are practicing metacognitive based teaching, they'll become very professional, highly successful, highly regarded, highly respectful educators. So there's a lot of benefits for self-directed learning, improve cognitive skill. Self-directed learners develop critical thinking, problem solving, and decision-making skill. Flexibility, students can explore, learn at their own pace and cater their own interests and learning style, and they will become lifelong learners. Self-directed learners develop the skill to learn new things independently and continuously throughout their life. Okay, so these are some of the strategies. I think, but I will stop here. There are, when we talk about teaching strategies now, how we design our lesson to empower our students to become self-directed learners, there are so many things we can do. So I hope this morning in this session, the main thing that I want to everyone to understand is about the concept of self-directed, self-regulated learners, and not only students but everyone is a learner. So now you can recognize whether you are really a self-directed learner or not by asking that kind of questions. Okay. Proactive learner, independent learner, proactive, always seeking, asking questions, always thinking about how much they have learned, what they have not learned, what they have not, they still don't understand. So these are the attributes, the characteristic of self-directed learner. So we have to ask ourselves, reflect, and if you don't have that kind of characteristic, we need to start to develop that. Right, so
One question,
yes,
Prof.
ya, ada lagi soalan?
Wan Zhu.
Okay, nampak. What challenges might teachers face when promoting self-efficacy in diverse classroom? Yeah, diverse classroom. I think that's the key word. What does it mean by diverse classroom? So meaning that the diversity of people or students that we have, and this is normal. Most of our classroom would have diverse students coming from different backgrounds, different socio-economic background. So they have different challenges. They have a different pace of learning. They have different preferences, the way they prefer to learn. So I think we should always recognize that our classroom, we cannot apply one size fits all, one approach, one type of assessment, one kind of learning activity, because of the diversity. If we recognize that in the first place, then that would help us to design and to design our lesson to cater for the diversity. There's no one size fits all. So the challenge would be more on our part to come up with the design, learning activities, learning assessment that would ensure our students, that would ensure that we address the diversity just now. For example, just now I take the question from the student on learning programming. Yeah, learning programming. I think Puan Lani ajar programming kan? Okay, learning programming. So the students that probably are not really keen to learn programming, but they have to learn because they take the course. They would come with anxiety. They would come with anxiety, and these are the type of students. Sometimes they always sit on the back, at the back row. And when the lecturers start to ask questions, they don't have eye contact with the lecturers. They pretending to be busy writing or something, because they don't want the lecturer to ask, because they don't have the confidence, they have anxiety and so on. So if we are sensitive to this kind of, these are the diversity. So this is where we need to use strategies to help this kind of student. The challenge is for us to be sensitive enough, to be empathetic enough. Our empathy is, not so high, so we are not so empathetic, and we can sometimes ignore and then let the student kind of on their own. So the challenge is more on the teacher now to kind of take all the necessary steps and measures. Yeah. Okay, I can see another one from Isra just now. Very good, Isra. I like that you are participating very well. I hope Puan Zurin okay dengan jawapan itu. Okay. Most of the classroom applications available today were originally created for meetings such as Zoom, Google Meet, and so on. While these apps offer features that are useful for meetings, they may not encompass all the functionalities required for effective teaching, such as the ability to deliver lectures and create interactive activities. Do you agree with this? Well, partly agree, yeah, because no one application, no one platform, no one single application, software, platform can do everything. So Microsoft Teams have its own strength, plus Google Meet, Zoom, okay, have their own ways of doing things, has their own features, but they don't have everything. I think it will be hard pressed, or will be difficult to find one platform that can do everything. But just like AI application now, you cannot use only one application to do certain thing, because you need to use a combination of 3 or even 4 AI to create one product. That's what I'm doing now. Yeah, at least 2 or 3. So the answer to this, we have to be especially lecturers lah. Lecturers, we have to be more creative, more resourceful. Okay, so how do we make the session more interactive? For example, if we have the time, if the learning outcome requires certain thing. So what we can do now, we can combine the platform Microsoft Teams, for example, and we can use application like Mentimeter. We can use even some of the AI tools and so on. We can use quizzes. We can all these other application together in combination, and create 2 or 3 learning activities within that 1 hour that will really making it more interactive, more engaging. But of course, all these features are not available in Microsoft Teams. And I don't think we will get one platform that can do everything, because that will make it even more complicated. Usually they want to limit the features. So it's up to the lecturers now to explore. So that's why I always say that every lecturer yang, those who are teaching, they must have their own toolbox. So in the toolbox, they have a tool set. So different lecturer will have a different tool set. So when you teach the course, you bring only the necessary tools that you need for that particular lesson. Yeah. All right. So I hope that would answer Isra's questions. Okay. Please, Prof, check this question. Which question? Can you give some strategies that educators? Can you please give some strategy that educators can use to create more effective and supporting environment for? For synchronous learning activities. Yes. Okay. I mentioned. I have answered that, Isra. I said this one would be a separate, but
Book.
to
E-book, you want to give your e-book?
Okay. Now let me see whether I have the. Give me. Let me check. Okay, I have. Okay, let me share the screen. So give me 1 minute. I want to get on the screen now.
Okay, for that, I think that's the ending. Is it, Prof? You just want to give the e-book.
Yeah. I'm trying to get on the screen now. Yeah. Go to site.
So everyone get ready for photo session. Those of you ready, you can on the camera. Those of you not ready, is okay.
All right. So okay, I will share the screen now. Share screen. Okay, first I will share my PowerPoint now. Okay, now boleh nampak ya? Can you see ya?
Boleh.
Okay, now Isra, to your question just now, these are, if you want to engage, strategies to engage students in the synchronous session online. Yeah, there are a lot of things you can do. So I'm just giving you this my favorite 3 books here. This one, all the books I purchased. Yeah, I have a copy, but this one is ebook, and unfortunately I cannot share the ebook. Not because of copyright infringement or what, but because I'm using the app, Kindle app to read, so we cannot share. These days, Amazon is very smart. Yeah? So this one, 50 strategies to boost cognitive engagement. And the strategies mentioned, 50, 50. The strategies mentioned here can also be adapted for online synchronous session. Yeah? And this one is also a very good book in the second edition now. Total Participation Techniques, Making Every Student an Active Learner. And the third one here is Promoting Rigor Through Higher Level Questioning. Okay, I hope you can take the picture of the screen now. I want to share another one. This is my own module. So I will copy the link now. Engaging learners in synchronous, live, and asynchronous session. If you see on the left hand side here, I have task 1, task 2, task 3 until 13, 15 here. Actually, 15 tasks, 15 activities that you can use in your online course. Okay, so you just follow the example that I have given here, 13 activities that you can use in your synchronous online session. So now I will copy the link.
Share the link.
Okay, dapat tak link? You get the link?
Ada.
Huh? Oh, I paste kat mana saya? Okay. Dapat?
Okay.
All right.
Got it.
So there's a big module for you, FOC, free of charge, of course.
Okay.
That module, when I do this course, short course with a private university, especially, I charge like 12,000 a day.
Wow.
12,000 a
Right.
day.
Oh.
But of course, free of charge for Unit 10.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Okay, so this that's the end, bro.
Yeah, so we want to take pictures, right?
Yeah. Before that, I would like to thank for you, because for the sharing. Thank you, bro.
Okay,
Get
so
applause.
yeah, I hope I've given value for your time.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Thank you,
Dah
Prof.
keep lah. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Bye
now
bye.
photo session, photo
Oh,
session.
foto. Oh, ingatlah ambil lah.
Belum.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, alright.
Photo session. Mana dia punya dah? Setting. Setting device.
Screenshot je lah.
Yalah, screenshot dia masuk dekat dalam setting. Device setting. Sekejap.
They're 45. 45. So should be a few screens.
Okay, before that, I'll stop the recording first. Okay.